All right.
Sure,
So,
whenever you're ready.
yeah. All right. So I'm here with Alonzo Bodden, and Alonzo is one of the top comics in the country, of course. And he was a guest multiple times on our podcast, but also played a barber in two of the three versions of my attempt at a sitcom pilot, and was subjected to the insanity of those shoots. So yeah, so I guess I'm just going to ask your the smirk, ask your general, like if you have any thoughts about us as podcasters. The show is called Grand Theft Audio, that we especially had you on. I'm not sure if I had you on later ones, but just, we were pretty early in the podcasting game when we were starting, which is part of why, people are expressing some interest in, having the story told.
Yeah, well, I remember sneaking downtown to office buildings at night. That's what you're talking about, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were at the nighttime ones. Yeah.
I was at the nighttime one at your office building. It was upstairs. It was somewhere downtown LA. I don't think they knew you were there at night. I think you were bootlegging the whole thing, because the guard always gave me a side eye going in. But yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah. So, I mean, compared to other kind of podcast operations, I mean, did we seem kind of unusual? I mean, because most people, there's a couple big companies that have studios, but most people tend to do it out of their apartments. And we were, as you pointed out, yeah.
I would put you somewhere in between, because like you said, there's a lot of them where, yeah, it's just somebody in their apartment with two mics or one of those little podcast recorders or something like that. And then there are full-on radio studio types, it looks like you're in a pro radio studio. You were in between, because you did have an office and you did have equipment, and it was, it was quiet. And I'd say, well done. That's what I would put it at. Well done. I don't particularly like sitting in someone's living room with a mic. So you were a little more professional than that. Okay.
Well, then on the other side, though, where we lacked in some professionalism was probably the sitcom shoots. You played a barber. The idea of the plot was that in the middle of an interview with an actor, Stephen Tobolowsky, a real life actor, while he's on the show, on my podcast, a prank call comes through claiming to be from a Black-owned barber shop and threatening to shove their python down my throat. And instead of just hanging up, I make things worse by trying to instigate a battle with the barbershop. And I tell all the listeners, which we pretended to have lots of listeners, but I had all the listeners call and harass your barbershop. And then finally, when they kept getting threatened, I finally showed up to try and, face you once and for all. And I wind up passing out right as you're about to punch me anyway, because I had narcolepsy. And so anyways, you were a good sport. You did this like 2 different times. And the first time we shot it with, it was strictly on the director's iPhone, because we had 0 budget whatsoever. And then the second time we had a more traditional director involved, but her process kind of drove people crazy. And we had a lot more equipment, but it was all jammed together in a tinier space. And things wound up taking like 4 hours later than we promised, I think. And you weren't too happy. I don't blame you. So any thoughts about all that stuff?
Well, Carl, on the good side, I'm going to say aim high, because you do. You aim for the stars, which is great. On the bad side, I'd say, let's work on the execution. I remember the first one. The first one was definitely better, being in the barbershop. Like, there was room and it was real. And, that what you were trying to do, that kind of combination of scripted and reality, talking to a real actor in a scripted sitcom and whatever, that's creative. So I admire that. But it is, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And one thing I have learned from this process is that when you call, don't answer the phone. I can't change my number because nobody'd find me, so I just kind of avoid you.
Okay. All right. So any other thoughts? Because
No,
all we need is a little bit anyway, but yeah.
Listen, all joking aside, it was fun and it was funny. It did take much longer than planned, and I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember that director. Excuse me. I'm flying. I'm tired. I do remember that director being, shall we say, challenging with all the different things and different things she wanted to do, and you know, and listen, I think again, I admire anyone who puts together something like that, but I think when you're working on a budget with limited time and resources, you got to just knock it out, and you got to go in that way. I mean, listen, artistic vision is great if you have a big budget and you have time and you're paying everybody and this and that. But when you're asking favors, which people don't mind doing because we're all hustling in this business, but you know, it makes everything tougher. So again, I admire you because I know however much work we did, you did more. You know, so good for you on that. It was a good idea, and hey, it was a project. We shot it. You know.
All right. Well, thanks, man. Hang on. I'm gonna